Hey everyone, I'm Andrea Ferretti.
And I'm Jason Crandall. Welcome to Yoga-ish.
Nicely done.
Been working on
Yeah.
it.
Good. All right. So we're back and we're going to intentionally, as opposed to just ramblingly, we're going to intentionally talk about Chihuahuas for a moment.
Just for a quick moment, I think it's beyond Chihuahua.
Okay.
So we went to SD Wawa's Chihuahua Gathering.
I love that you know the name. I didn't know it was called SD
SD
Wawas.
Wawa's.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to put those of you that are watching this, by the way, you can be listening to this podcast on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. But if you don't also watch it on YouTube, check it out on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and all those things. And on YouTube, I'm going to include some of the photos that I took at this event.
Oh, nice.
And I think the thing that I wanted to share about it is...
So it was a Chihuahua Meetup. Let's just
plainly
state what it was.
It's a monthly Chihuahua meetup in San Diego in this little park.
Yeah.
And there were lots of people and lots of Chihuahuas. And it was so niche, but I just loved it. I really did. And I love dogs. People that do my trainings, I mean, I talk to them about their dogs all the time, right? Especially if they're on Zoom. I'm always like, oh my God, how's Remy doing? How's Grizzly Bear doing?
He knows all the dogs and the cats now.
Yeah, I'm getting better with cats.
Yeah.
But we just did this somewhat on a whim.
It wasn't really on a whim.
Okay.
So we'll sort of introduce the other component to this, which is I'm the one in the family who always tries to get the rest of the family to do social things.
Yeah.
I will try anything and everything because being social is not the easiest for you and Sophia.
Right.
It's not even really that easy for me. But compared to you two, I am like the biggest extrovert you've ever met.
We've brought you down. You probably had much more skills. We've been slowing you down for years.
It's pretty low level these days.
Yeah.
So I've been looking at the Chihuahua Meetup for months and thinking about it for quite a while. We found her on Instagram, the woman who organizes it. The account is Pretty Little Birdie because the Chihuahua that she adopted is called Birdie.
A Pretty Little Birdie?
No, I think it's just Pretty Little Birdie.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but
yeah.
And so she posts little Birdie, lots of little Birdie. She has Birdie is her Chihuahua. Actually, I think Littles is also a Chihuahua, but he's long hair. And then he has his own account. And then we found out when we got back that she is a kitten expert.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for real. And she travels the country educating people about how to foster kittens. So we found out when we got back that she has a kitten account. I think it's called, I'll have to put it in the show notes. It's like Kitten X Lady.
Okay.
Kitty, I think it's Kitten X Lady. And she has over 1 million followers on that account. So we had no idea we were going to this, very social media savvy person's Chihuahua meetup. I don't think you two, I didn't have to twist your arms, but I really had to make sure that I had to make it happen.
Yeah.
We got down there. It's like, 20 to 30 minutes away for us because we're north of the actual city. And we wandered in and that motley little crew of Chihuahuas did not disappoint.
I felt at home. I really did. So I also just had a birthday.
Yes.
We're making the pivot. I just had a birthday. And on my birthday, it was my 51st birthday. On that birthday, we went to get coffee. And I was caffeinated and happy that it was my birthday. And I subjected you to a classic ADHD brain dump.
It was great.
Yeah. And that's where we're going to go now.
Yeah.
Because the thing that I was talking about a lot was an approach to learning called constraint-led approach that has been popularized and utilized in different arenas for skill development since the late 80s and early 90s. But it's particularly influential in sports. It's becoming bigger and bigger in NBA. Many teams have CLA, constraint-led approach, consultants. And it's become huge in jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts. And it is the primary learning modality or learning approach that my primary coach, Andras Brunovskis, has incorporated for the last probably year and a half. And I've been slowly but surely taking components of it that we'll talk about and incorporating it more overtly, especially in my teacher training programs. And we were right towards the end. We just finished the other day, but we were right towards the end of our second module in my training. And I was incorporating a lot of this constraint-led approach in this training, especially in our live sessions. And so that's how I gave you the big brain dump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since it was quite a meandering brain dump and you said, it's my birthday, so you're just going to have to listen to this.
You're going to have to listen.
And I listened intently for quite a while.
Yeah.
I want to help you describe it because it is a little challenging to describe.
It's challenging to describe. And let me say this really quick. For me personally, I don't preclude or I don't dismiss any way of learning, right? And so for me, it's not either or when we're looking at an educational modality. It's what are all of the resources that I have as a teacher at my disposal to use? Let's use all of them. So as we talk about this approach, it's not
either or. That's fine. I think we just want to actually describe what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to describe what my understanding of it, and you're going to help.
Yeah.
Because I'm, just learning about it. But my understanding is, well, when I used to go watch you do jujitsu in San Francisco, it was not the constraint-led approach.
Correct.
And your coach there would give you guys some technique to work on. And he would show it to you. He would demonstrate it with another student. And then you would break up into pairs, or I think it was usually pairs, right?
Pairs.
Break up into pairs. And then you would work on that technique, work on that technique, work on that technique, work on that technique. And then it would be time to actually spar.
Yes.
And the idea was to try that technique to win the sparring match, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a fast forwarded approach for sure.
And what it seems to be, what the constraint-led approach seems to be is instead of drilling a technique, you introduce an outcome.
Correct.
That you want the student to get to, and then they figure out how to get there.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
So we'll give a couple of examples, and I'm gonna just ever so slightly tweak what you said. So conventionally in jiu-jitsu, the coach teaches a technique. You pair up, you go work on that technique with your partner. And because one person is learning the technique, there's no resistance. Then you go back and the coach shows you a defense to that technique. And then you go back with your partner and you practice that defense. And then you go and you look at, here is a way to counter the defense, right?
So you've got A, B,
you have A,
C.
B, and C. But I think the big picture that I want everyone to take away from is in this modality, you're primarily learning a technique. And all of the drill is based around a technique. So everything that the coach is trying to facilitate.
This is the previous way of learning.
Yes. Yeah. Everything that the coach is trying to get you to do is to learn and execute a technique. So teacher knows, teacher shares, student tries to do that, right? And just like you said, in a constraint-led approach, and again, this is just like a simple distillation of it, the coach isn't really going to show a technique. The coach isn't going to show a technique at all. But what the coach is going to do is going to create a game that has certain winning and losing conditions. And each person that is playing that game, right, has an outcome that they're trying to achieve. And I'll give a simple example that I think people can understand even if they don't understand anything about jiu-jitsu. In jiu-jitsu, the single most important initiating component are grips. If I want to control you in some way, I have to be able to have a proper grip on you, and you have to have a grip on me. So we might play a game where the instructor is not teaching you how to get a grip. The teacher is not teaching you a technique. The teacher is saying, person A, your winning condition is to get a hold of that person's collar and that person's sleeve. Person B, your job is to get a hold of both of their sleeves. Does that make sense so
Sure.
far? And then you go with full effort for 5 to 10 to 15 minutes just on that. So the student is not replicating a technique. The student is understanding a winning condition or a desired outcome, and they are trying to figure it out how to achieve it best on their own. So another kind of simple way to think through this, and then I think it will start to make more sense, maybe even more when we flesh it out in the context of yoga, is the biggest takeaway, the like top line that I think is really interesting to me as it relates to yoga is the shifting away from a teacher teaching a technique and the shift towards a student understanding an outcome that they're trying to achieve and being a little bit more free in their ability to achieve it. Okay. Does that help?
Yeah, it seemed, it's so what we talked about was that it encourages problem solving,
Big time.
like student-led problem solving. So
Big
instead
time.
of being fed, it's almost like the difference between rote learning, where you're just repeating things over and over and over again, but maybe not even understanding how to solve the equation.
Yes.
And just trying to solve the equation.
Yes.
So student-led problem solving, critical thinking, self-inquiry.
Yes. And I'm going to give a couple of examples, but I also want to pull back a little bit and say, I think that one of the challenges in the way that we teach yoga, and I will even just own this myself, okay, is that oftentimes we're very black and white and specific and meticulous about technique, which I appreciate. And I think there's still plenty of room for that. But I think a lot of times teachers are very technique driven and specific in their technique, or they say something like, just listen to your body and do whatever feels good, right? And I think for such a long time, for technique driven teachers and schools, they could be so rigid in their approach that then there was this whole counter shift to technique doesn't matter, just do whatever feels good in your body, so forth and so on. But I'm always looking for the middle ground. So I want to give a couple of examples about this, okay? And let's start with back bends. I can give anyone like literally dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of techniques, but that doesn't ensure that they're going to feel good in their back bends. So imagine there's a situation, and again, like this can be difficult to execute in just a drop-in class, and it's why I was really focused on it in training. But let's say we do this. This is an example. Okay, everybody, we're gonna do some back bends, and my goal for you in back bends is that your lower back, middle back, and upper back have the same amount of sensation. So my goal when you do bridge, locust, camel, and cobra right now is that the lower back, the middle back, and the upper back feel similar to each other in intensity. Now, as we do these poses, I want you to experiment with pelvic tilt. And I'm not going to tell you whether you should anteriorly tilt your pelvis or posteriorly tilt your pelvis. We're not going to start with a technique. We're going to start with that outcome. You know how you want to feel in this pose. So in each one of these poses, I want you to experiment with anteriorly tilting your pelvis and posteriorly tilting your pelvis. And I want you to figure out which one of those tilts in your body in each one of these poses actually makes your lower back, middle back, and upper back feel good and even. So it starts to become this dynamic where I'm not saying anteriorly tilt your pelvis. I'm not saying posteriorly tilt your pelvis. I'm also not just saying listen to your body. I'm saying there is a condition, there is a goal. Your lower back, middle back, upper back feel the same. And here is the constraint. Just focus on pelvic tilt. And here's the thing that's so interesting to me from a teacher that just wants to go on and tell everybody what to do forever, right? When I have a group and we do that experiment, people learn how pelvic tilt affects their lower back, middle back, and upper back really quick. And secondarily, they start to figure out in their own embodied experience which one of these actions leads to the desired outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think like we also know from parenting, right? The more the child comes up with the solution, the more they're going to buy into the process.
Especially in our family.
And again, I'm not saying that I in no way am saying technique is not important. We shouldn't still teach technique. But the bottom line is you might have a dozen people and 7 of those people feel better in their back bends if they have a little anterior tilt. But then the other might feel a little bit better in their back if they have posterior pelvic tilts. So the more that we can clarify a desired outcome and then give them little ways to experiment with this, the more they can be involved in problem solving, come up with good solutions. And also to me, like last point on this bit is this also to me is fundamentally teaches critical thinking skills, analysis, and self-dependence, right? It's like the quote from Suzuki Roshi, teaching Zen is not like training dogs, right? We want to actually be teaching people how to learn.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the self-inquiry process. So it's the thing that I like about what you described is you're creating a structure for people to work within. So they're not lost and feeling like, I don't know how to feel even in my back bends. I don't even know where to begin. You give them the outcome, but then you give them a structure to work within. So they're not feeling lost. They're going into a process of self-inquiry. It's also reinforcing the idea that everybody's body is different, which you and I feel is just really important to teach people because it's in every facet of society. We assume that everybody has the exact same playing field, the exact same brain, the exact same body, the exact same privilege. It's just so interesting. So it's reinforcing that we all just feel things and experience things differently. And so that will instill, I think, a sense of patience and compassion in the teachers who are then going to go teach their own students. And I think, the last thing is it helps each of us hone in on where are our challenges? Where are the challenges in the structures? Where are the challenges in the thought process? And where are the not the wins? I'm looking for the right word, but where are we comfortable?
Yeah.
And where are we uncomfortable?
Can we talk a little bit about how I apply this in teaching sequencing?
Yeah.
Especially in the same context, right? First, one more example of backbend. And I've done this forever, even in public class, right? And backbend is just it's a simple way to look at this. So another scenario could be you're just teaching your regular yoga class. You get to bridge pose time. And you say, okay, everybody, we're going to do bridge pose 3 times. The first time we do it, we're going to keep our feet hip width apart, and we're going to gently squeeze a block between the inner thighs. The second time we do it, we're going to take the feet about as wide as the yoga mat, and we're going to let both feet turn slightly outwards. The third time, you're going to choose which one of those you preferred in your body, and you're going to repeat that option. And one of the things that we're doing as teachers is we're selecting the constraints, right? So it's not a free for all. And I'm making sure that I'm only selecting options that I am supportive of their mechanical outcomes that I think are safe and reasonable, right? I'm not like, okay, option 1, do this. Option 2, whack yourself in the back of the head with a yoga block, right? And so you're selecting a range of parameters, and it's just like A/B testing, right? Do this, do that. Now do a third round and pick which one of those works best.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like to me, this represents something deeply important about us as people that are reflective and rooted in self-inquiry, which you're going to follow up on in a conversation a little bit later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk real quickly, teacher training specific, how I incorporate this with sequencing, okay? So when I teach training at every level, I teach what's called the master sequencing template, and I'm not going to get into all the details now, okay? But in the master sequencing template, the first phase of class are the preparations phase. And the preparations are always working backwards from what focal points or themes we're working on that day. So let's stay with back bends, right? So I will say to the group, right? And we were drilling this a ton in our live sessions. I'll say to the group, okay, our practice for today, we are going to focus on dropbacks. Now, we're probably not actually going to get to dropbacks, but I want us to be able to work backwards from that. So we're going to use the master sequencing template. I'm not actually going to teach a single yoga pose today. You are going to figure everything out, but I'm going to structure and provide you with time increments and things to focus on. So get in your mind that we're going to do dropbacks today, even though PS will probably not arrive. It's just an anchor point to work backwards from. And the first thing I want you to do, this is kind of like class prep, is to think to yourself, what are some things that you wanted? Like, how are you going to start to prepare, right? And so some things that people will say is like, well, okay, I'm going to need to stretch the quads and the hip flexors, right? Okay, I'm going to need to do a slow progression of back bends to prepare my body. Great. Okay, I need to do some shoulder openers to prepare my shoulders. Great. Okay. So those are kind of ingredients. Now, I'm also going to say to the group as we're brainstorming this process, how do you think people are going to feel emotionally or mentally if they know that this is what they're going to work on? And it's obvious. Some people are going to be really excited. Some people are going to be really scared. Most people are going to be really dismissive. Like, oh, I can't do that, right? And so to me, that starts to give us emotional things to work with. Because essentially what people are going to go through is desire and aversion. So we can start to say to ourselves, well, as teachers, how do we start to deal with that in reality in class? We slow down the breathing. We make sure to language around nonviolence and just challenging yourself, but staying within a comfortable range. We start to think to ourselves, oh, can we challenge ourselves in class today, but stay anchored to our breath and not get too much performance anxiety? So now to me, all of a sudden, we have a lot of content for class. We have open hip flexors and quads, open spine, open shoulders, try not to worry too much about performance, challenge ourselves while staying safe. Like all those to me are now ingredients for a public class.
Mm.
So now I'll say, okay, we've done that so we've done the initial brainstorming. So you have 5 minutes on your own, in your own practice. You're not teaching this, you're just feeling your body. You have 5 minutes just to begin to prepare for those things. And here's the constraints. You can't do sun salutations yet. You have to only do things that are either opening your quads, gently preparing your spine, gently preparing your shoulders, or doing breath-based things to help you focus and relax. And then you see students at first be really confused.
Mm.
And then they start to figure it out. And I just hold the timer, 5 minutes, right? And then I look at the screen and everyone is doing something from their own creative experience that is still led to those constraints,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the next 5 minutes, I'll say, okay, now all I want you to do for this phase is sun salutations. And in your sun salutations, your constraint is you can't hold anything for more than one breath, unless you're really tired. Like if you're really tired, you can take a break, but I just want you to establish breath-based movement. Okay, I don't care what kind of sun salutations. You can do half sun salutations for 5 minutes. You can do Surya Namaskar B for 5 minutes. You can do Surya Namaskar A. It doesn't matter. Just breath and movement. Your constraint is nothing else. Next 5 minutes. These will be the last 5 minutes I describe, and then I think we get the point. Okay, next 5 minutes. Okay, we're now 10 minutes in. Everybody, for the next 5 minutes, you're going to continue to maintain your sun salutations. You're going to continue to maintain the rhythm that you've established, but now you're going to start to include standing poses. And in your standing poses, I want you to focus on standing poses that lengthen the hip flexors and the quads, and you can do shoulder openers in them too. So for example, like warrior one with eagle arms, warrior one, fingers interlaced behind the back, crescent lunge, Garudasana arms, Ardha Chandra Chapasana. Like you have to, I don't want teachers at this level to like click into the known. I want them to be problem solving. I want them to be piecing the puzzle together where they're continuing to work backwards from this same exact thing, right? And so now we have this third phase of class where they're incorporating the openers that work backwards from the outcome of today, back bends, but they're also incorporating the breath-based movement. And the constraint is you can't do any arm balances right now. You can't do any inversions right now, and you're not allowed to do any back bends right now. So I want you to keep preparing for the back bends to come, but you're not allowed to do those back bends yet. You have to do sun salutations, mixing in with standing pose flows that are targeted towards our outcome. And what the last thing I want to say about this is, once the students have done this a few sessions, their skill development in understanding how to create a cohesive sequence that has function, like that's balanced, that's complete, but that also is integrated and cohesive and functional, is outrageous.
Yeah, it sounds really empowering too.
It's so empowering, and it's so much better than just like, but I'm supposed to do this pose and then this pose, but should I do this pose and then this pose, right?
Well, it's just like memorizing and then being worried you're going to forget something. Whereas if you forgot something, you would just think about, well, where am I in the sequence? What am I working on?
You're completely anchored.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to me, in that, there's a lot of freedom. And for me, and it's one thing I say to the group all the time, is I don't think that people are creative in a vacuum. I think that people are creative and innovative when they're solving for something, right?
It's
like,
really hard to be creative in a vacuum,
right?
Really hard.
And so this is a thing too, that about like creative flows or creative sequencing. If it's not anchored in something, it's unlikely to make sense or be that creative, because it's kind of like if you had a writing assignment. Imagine you're like creative writing. You're like, write anything of any duration about anything. You can't.
You can do it, but it's different. It's a whole different process. It's a different,
right?
Yeah.
So going all the way back to the beginning to end is when the teacher identifies, here's an outcome we're working towards. Here are the constraints of that thing. Play the game, because ultimately it's about skill development. And when people are put in this context of solving a puzzle, they become very innovative, they become very creative, and they become really empowered, really authentic.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it must feel
really
great
amazing.
to really understand from the inside out how to sequence.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And people are responding well to it, I take it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it's not, this isn't to say, and again, I want every listener to hear, the technique is so good, structure is so good. This isn't an either or, but what the development that I see in people that are provided with outcome and constraints in their sequencing development versus people that are just told to memorize things in their sequencing development. I've seen both. I've understood it for decades. There's a massive difference. Yeah.
Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels good.
So you're doing this in your 300-hour and in your 200-hour?
200-hour, there's a bunch of constraint-led stuff, but it's different. It's
Right.
way more basic.
Right.
Because all of the things that I just spoke about are unbelievably well suited to teachers and students that have fundamentals.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you don't know anything about, like, if I don't know anything about playing a guitar,
Right. You
know what I mean?
can't work with the, yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
So there are ways that I incorporate this work into 200-hour stuff, but this conversation lands much more readily on students that are teachers that are experienced. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You sent me an Instagram reel the other day.
Yeah. We were just thinking about what we wanted to talk about on Yoga-ish. And I thought about this reel. Oh my gosh. I didn't look at what the guy's name is, which is so funny.
I'll put it in the, put it on the, you'll put it in the show notes.
Yes.
I will put it on the screen for those of you watching YouTube. Like and subscribe.
Yes. Anyway, he is an artist, and I'm going to kind of describe what he talks about. So he talks about the examined life, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially he says, everyone thinks they're a good person. And that's because a large proportion of people don't lead an examined life. And so a life where you look inward at yourself, and because he says when you do that, when you're willing to really look deeply at yourself, you notice not just all of the great qualities, but the qualities that scream at you really loud are the shadow qualities and the destructive habit patterns of the mind and the destructive habit patterns of your relationships. And so he puts out there that it's usually only creative types who lead an examined life, because creative types are forced to look within in order to come up with whatever it takes to write or to paint or to act. And he points out that he feels that right now we're in this legacy of the New Age movement where everything's all about self-love and I feel good about myself and, positive affirmations and self-care. But if you're only focusing on that without looking at your shadows, it's barren, in his words. And so then he ends the reel by saying that those who lead an examined life will often doubt themselves and not put themselves out there as much as those who broadcast their actions and think they're without fault or without a shadow. So first of all, just generally loved stumbling upon this piece of content and it was the first time in a while that I watched something that felt like it actually said something.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that it brought up for me is how frustrated I've been feeling lately with this sensation that all of us who do yoga and people who listen to this podcast and people who are in our community are kind of in this little screaming into the void, like compassion is important, having empathy is important. And there are times for myself when I feel like, gosh, what are the things that I talk about or the things that I write about, the things that I try to platform of any importance at all in the scheme of the way that social media works? Because I agree with him that, and so I do have some differences from what he said. So I agree with him that oftentimes people who don't look at their shadow side are more willing to broadcast and put things out there. But I think even more nuanced than that is that the audience likes to receive all positive messages, right? We as people, we get the biggest, brain reward. We are the most attracted to happy news and or rage bait. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of either one or the
Yeah.
other. But when I'm talking about like, I'm just sort of talking about this overconfident type of content, right? Or this over, like when you think of wellness
Yeah.
content
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really
You're right. You're right.
popular,
Okay. Yeah.
it's just a lot of, spiritual vibe.
Absolutist solutions to
Yes.
complex phenomenon.
Yes, lots of inspiration porn.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of like, I have the solution.
Yeah.
Look at my life.
Yeah.
I figured this
Yeah.
out. You want to sign up for my thingamajig,
Yeah. My detox.
right? And so that was kind of interesting for me
Yeah.
just to think about, just as like a thought experiment. And the other thing is, when you said, mostly only creatives, I thought, well, okay, there's also the spiritual types, and there's also, I think, introverts.
Yeah.
I think introverts are because we gain energy by being by ourselves. I mean, I'm totally generalizing, but it feels to me like it's part of an introverted pattern to self-reflect
Yeah.
and to examine for better or for worse.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's all great. I wrote actually in one of my comments on Substack, I wrote to Blossom, despair is not my friend. I lived in despair a lot as a young person, and I have I can go there so fast and so easily. And at this age, I know that that's not to my benefit. So I'm not saying sitting in your shadow is always the thing to do, but just knowing that it's there and being willing to be honest about it is important.
I think we can take this to the yoga world really easily. If we just like have a moment of assessment, like top line assessment of Yoga Sutra, it's mostly about obstacle identification and removal, right? It's not about doing good things and making positive contributions. It's about identifying the obstacles and removing them, right? So we can't really have a yoga practice that doesn't first really look at and inquire at our obstacles, right? This is like, it's really asking us not to like just look at the bright side. It's saying, look, the bright side is there. It's already there. You don't need to magnify it. We have to identify the challenges to clarity and remove them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always felt really heartened by this, right? And I've always felt like the reason that these disciplines are asking us and training us to be more objective and even-minded is because we won't look within if we're not objective and if we're not even-minded, right? There's no way we're going to look, right? If I'm not willing to see what's in that crevice and deal with it, there's no way I'm going to look into it. But these traditions they're rooted in the process of self-inquiry. Who am I? Where did I come from? What am I to do on this earth? What happens after I die? Like these are the 4 seminal questions of the yoga tradition, like across these traditions. And so I think people that are drawn to these practices, look, if you are drawn to yoga because you love stretching your hamstrings and it feels great, that's totally great. That can be the be all end all. That's totally fine. I'm glad we have you. And I also think that people that are drawn to yoga for long enough that they stay with it, it's because they are trying to understand those deeper, murkier, harder parts within, and knowing that we have good company and doing so is good. Final thing is, I have really been thinking, like, I never understood that I was a creative. Like, I never understood that I was a creative. And now I can't look at a yoga teacher and not mostly see that they are a creative. They're creating 60 minutes of content in a row, right? And ideally that's coming from a genuine and deep place within themselves, day after day after day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The line for me from that to yoga is really I just immediately thought of meditation and how, you know, so often if I'm just in a social setting and people say, what do you do? And I explain to them, and I might say like, and I also teach meditation. It's like, oh, well, I could never do that. Well, I
Right.
could never.
Right.
Well, if I were to break it down and really talk to them about it, which I rarely do because it feels a little bit dismissive when people say that
Yeah.
to me, I would say, I'm sure I would find out it's not that you can't do it. It's that you find it uncomfortable. It's
And
uncomfortable.
that's why it would actually be effective to do.
Right. It's
If it
uncomfortable.
wasn't uncomfortable, it probably wouldn't be of value to you.
Yeah. Getting quiet and looking within has a shadow. It's not all hearts and rainbows. There are parts of it that are challenging and difficult. And it's simply part of the process. It's just what is.
I've never really thought about this, and I know we're right at time, but let's think about it related to physical exercise. It's uncomfortable too. Like if your physical exercise,
Yeah.
if you went to the gym and nothing was uncomfortable, you're not going to have an upside.
It
I
would,
mean, you might enjoy yourself, which is totally fine. I'm all for enjoying myself, but in which case, skip the gym and go like have a coffee,
right.
right? So it is actually the discomfort of the exercise that facilitates growth.
Yep.
It's the discomfort of the stillness
Mm-hmm.
that is going to facilitate the growth.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. All right, Jason, are we going to wind it up here?
I think we're going to leave the audience. We never talked about
We didn't. And I have a doctor's appointment. We will do it next time. So for now, we'll just leave this cliffhanger. Jason is working on this really exciting project, and it's going to actually start rolling out next week.
Yeah.
And it's really a little mini documentary featuring students who have graduated from your
Yeah.
200-hour program.
Yeah.
And it's all about their experience.
Yeah.
So
Stay tuned.
stay tuned.
Yeah.
And the 200-hour for January, the January cohort that starts is open for enrollment and registration. And if you register now, you get the early bird price and you get all of the content in terms of the practices and the lectures and the assignments and the reading list and the manual. And you can get yourself all ready and ahead of the game for when the live calls start in January. So that's jasonyoga.com/200.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Andrea.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.